Alright, so welcome back for another video. We've had some requests in the comments to do like a farm history video.
Yep.
So there's a lot there to unwind because obviously you're a fifth generation farmer.
Yep.
That goes back, I mean, presumably 100 years, let's say. And, you know, 100 years ago, we kind of lose that history every generation.
Yeah.
But I think we do have a decent grasp on like a little bit of detail from like generation 2, which would have been your great-grandpa.
Yep.
Generation 3, which is your grandpa Daryl, and then generation 4, your dad, and then obviously you. So maybe we just start with like current state, just to like level set with that. So basically, how many acres are you farming right now?
So right now, this year, we dropped a few acres over the past couple of years just because my dad was getting older and just wanted to try and slow down a little bit, and it was too big of a pain to try and come up with new contracts and everything on some of the rented ground. But right now, I believe for the numbers are right about 900 and 850, I believe. That's what we have right now, 900 of corn and 850 of beans altogether.
And you are personally renting like 160?
200.
200, and then you guys are also renting my parents 80, but that's it. Basically, you're at 1,600 acres farmable that you own, and a few hundred acres, give or take, of rented land. So, and then one thing is, you don't store any grain on site anymore.
Nope. We haul it all to Walnut Grove. It's just a lot easier during harvest, it seems like. Well, not during harvest, just because with all the travel time, combine can be sitting a little bit. But in the winter, we don't have to run our trucks on crappy roads. We don't have to handle the grain twice. Don't have to worry about anything going rotten in the bins. Don't have to worry about any of that. If we wanted to do storage right now, we'd have to put up a lot more bins and retrofit all of the bins. We'd have to do a lot of work and a lot of money put into it. So I don't see it being in the near future of us putting up anything for storage wise.
Right. So then as far as farm sites, right now you have the home place here, which is like the blue shed that you always see in the videos. And then a mile down the road, you have your grandpa's, what was your grandpa's place, that you guys have that building site, and that's the other building we show where we put the planter in, the semis are stored over there, the bean head, tillage equipment usually. Combine,
over winter.
Right, so that's kind of the setup, is there's two farms, and then there's another farm in between that we'll talk about a little bit it's family right now, but it was, I think, your great-grandpa's place at one point, so. Yeah, and then your parents lived there before they bought this and all that, but.
In total, we have 4 cold storage buildings, and then we have this one, which is our main working area now. We have a shop, but you can't get big equipment in there anymore, so we hardly use it.
Right. And then as far as just equipment, just level set, you have one combine, a few years old maybe, couple?
1 year old. 1 year.
Okay, so this will be its second year.
Yep.
New corn and bean heads are going to be here this year.
Coming in.
Those needed to be replaced. You're running 2 quad tracks. One's in its 3rd year and one's in its 5th.
Yes.
I think here. The grain cart we're sitting on, I think that we established last time I was like 2021, 22 maybe.
Zach Johnson had it for a year, and I believe it's gonna be its third.
Yeah, something like that. You have that 24 row 30-inch planter. We use that. That's got the precision plant.
Yep.
We use that both corn and beans, and then trucks. You have to haul all that grain.
3 Kenworths, all 1,000 bushel. The two of them have the smaller motor, and then the nicer one that the wheel locked up on a couple videos ago. That one has a big C15 with the 2 turbos on it. That's the nice truck that we got, even though it's been a pain in our butt.
Yeah, so I mean that's like a status of where you're at right now, but it was a far cry from that, 100 years ago when this started. So this has all been like a slow build over generations. So if we dive back, so I think let's skip generation 1. We legitimately, I don't really know anything. I've talked to your mom. She doesn't really have any insight into that. Go to generation 2, which it would be your great grandpa. So they lived and had the acreages that we call grandma's. And that was where your parents lived, and that's the farm place in between this and your grandpa's place.
Correct.
So
that's why my dad always called that farm over there, the 240 acres, grandma's.
Grandma's, right. So basically, I think the farm, when he was farming, your great grandpa, that was what he farmed. His 250, 300 acres, somewhere in that area. But he seemed like from what I've heard in stories, like he had a plan as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like he had a vision, and he knew kind of like on a schedule of what he wanted to do. He wasn't just like, going through the motions. So he had like a plan. I think beyond that, I mean, that's probably a lot of land, a decent sized chunk of land back then, because everything was so small scaled as far as the equipment. But then the place where, we get to generation 3, which is your grandpa, that's where I really remember a lot. So obviously I'm a lot older than Nick. Might not look like it, but I am. So I remember that a lot. But even when I was a kid, I think your grandpa was pretty much semi-retired, like your dad was doing a lot of it, and he was helping and stuff, but not like every day, all day type of thing.
And my dad, he always told me the story of when my grandpa fully retired. My dad asked him, are you going to still be around to help me out? Or are you going to do a little bit of work for me? No, I'm retired. I'm getting out of here. So have fun. That's how that went. And my dad said he was going to do the same to me.
Yeah, so when your grandpa first started, they had sheep over there.
Sheep, cattle.
Yeah, back in the day they had cattle, still did, farmed. So I think your grandpa picked up basically all the land around his home place, which was the additional, that's got to be 500 acres probably.
Yeah.
What we call Dad's north, middle, south, the Long Lake fields down there. So that's an additional about 500 acres. So at that point, you're up to basically 800-ish acres through your grandpa. At that, I used to help out a little bit back when I was young, and we were still using the bin sites over there. So that was probably like 25 years ago, and we were using the bin sites over there. So we were actually still storing most of the grain on site. Other than that, obviously the equipment wasn't like 30-year-old equipment, but it was nothing like, kind of what your dad had going on, had worked up to. So I remember your dad just saying, we've talked about your transition into this for a couple years, and your dad just said, that's what I did when I started. I took out a loan to buy my dad's equipment basically from him, and like you said, your grandpa was like, when I retire, I'm
done.
Yeah, I'm retired. I'm not semi-farming still, basically. So, as soon as he did that, then your dad started taking over, and I think that's when we get to the next generation, which is 4th generation, your dad. And I used to work for your dad when I was 14, 15, 16, something like that. My brother did too. So your dad always had a side. When he was paying off, side jobs all the time. When he was paying off his debt initially with the equipment, we were vacuuming grain. He had the grain vac, and he was vacuuming grain bins out for everyone. And that's kind of how he was able to accelerate his, taking over his dad's position in it. And then ultimately, he bought you know, a lot of the land that was in the family, but they wasn't directly farmed by your dad and your grandpa.
Yep.
He was buying that like out west at Oscar's. I think he bought that from his great uncle. So
Yep, great uncle.
Right.
Oscar Mitchell.
Right. So he bought that, and he also bought, you know, grandma's. He bought your dad's piece.
Yep.
And then even somewhere in the mix there, he bought the home place here, which we just call
Yep.
home. That had the house and everything on it. So he worked a lot of like those side jobs. He was always trying to get, you know, just didn't want debt. He wanted to,
Yep.
you know, grow, get it all paid for, and then
You know, he was getting to the point where if he couldn't pay for it,
oh gosh, got a bird in the shed. All right, so
like I was saying, my dad was getting to the point where once he got everything paid off, he didn't want to go back into debt by taking a loan out with the bank or anything like that. So if he didn't have the money to pay for it up front, he wasn't going and talking to anyone at the bank and trying to get money for it. He would just either wait or pass up on buying something. Because when that piece over there went up for sale, and it was pretty cheap at the time. Well, at the time it was expensive. About 10 years ago it was, or 5, looking back, that was very cheap.
now it's like less than a quarter of what, maybe a quarter
Yep.
of what things go for, and that was not that long ago.
No, 6 years ago. Well, instead of buying that piece, we got a new quad track that year. And I don't think he really regretted his decision on that. Just probably wish that he had a little bit more money sitting in the account at the time.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to want to grow too. Like you're thinking about retirement. You know, if you're in
Yep.
his shoes, he's thinking about retirement. The last thing he wants to do is farm more acres right before he's, you know, going to retire probably.
Yeah.
So
Got
he
more
bought.
to pay off.
Yeah, I mean, he really bought most of his land. You know, acquired most of the land and everything when he was, I would say, like 25 years ago, right?
Yep.
Like he did a lot of that stuff when he was younger. When he was like, he was renting a bunch of land too to help pay for this, you know, the stuff he bought.
Yep.
And once he got to that certain point, like he had an ideal size in his head of, yeah, this is an ideal number of acres that I would want to farm, given, you know, the help that you have available.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at right now. If I add on more acres, I'm worried about trying to get the help to come out and find anybody to work.
So your dad, yeah, basically what he did the last, I would say 10, 15 years or so is like he just wanted to make farming more enjoyable, like having nice
Yep.
equipment. You know, it's nice riding in newer equipment. So he was investing a lot in equipment rather than buying land for, you know what I mean, historical high prices. He just wasn't really into that at that point.
Nope. No, he would rather have spent his money on equipment and riding comfort, I guess.
Right, and I think he got out of the cattle, so I guess kind of going back, I think he stopped doing the cattle thing, I would say 20,
Yep.
25 years ago too. Like, he stopped doing the cattle, the livestock altogether, and then I don't know when you guys stopped storing grain. I would say
I was around. I remember
Yeah.
a little bits and pieces about storing grain, so probably 15 years
yeah,
ago, I'd say.
right. I think it was basically time to make significant upgrades to the, you know what
Yep.
I mean, to the system over at your grandpa's, and he decided at that point that wasn't an investment
Yep.
that he thought was going to pay off, you know, in the near future, so just started hauling everything. Yeah, so I guess we skip ahead to you. So 5th generation, and there's more to cover there. You've already said, like, without some more help, it's hard to justify, or it's hard to grow, you know, unless
Yep.
you have more help. Because really, you're the only person here every single day. I have a full-time job.
Yep.
I'm here as much as I can because I like being out here, and it's fun for us to to make these videos. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff where you actually need help.
Yeah.
I mean, one person can only do so much. So,
Yep.
But it's not like you just get, like, this isn't just like, oh yeah, here you go. It's like now you're in a position where you get to do what your dad did. Basically you get to buy equipment and,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Start it over.
Yeah, looking into the best ways to do that and get everything going, but right now I'm just happy to be farming and don't think there's another job that could make me happy the way farming makes me. So
yeah, so I think that's pretty much sums it up. I mean, at a high level. If there's detailed questions or anything, like, leave us a comment if you have anything or if we totally missed anything. But without sitting down and, like, sketching this whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, drawing this whole timeline with all these details. This is, like, the high level of, history of the farm. So we could do another video if there's detailed questions or different questions depending on what they are. But really, this is what it is.
Yeah. And like I said, my dad never really got into much history on everything. My dad was a date guy. He knew the dates of everything. I am not that guy. I do not know dates to save me at all. So then some of the stories that he used to tell me are kind of hard to remember now, but yeah, if you guys have any detailed questions on anything, I'm sure I can find some answers, and maybe I'll even know them. So,
yeah, in a future episode, I plan on I'm going to take the drone and we're going to actually go out to each of these pieces and kind of like show everyone on an overall map, like where these things are located, kind of in proximity to each other, and like what we call what as far as the farms. I think that'd be kind of interesting. We'll give a little context about when that was acquired and stuff like that, roughly. So we'll go through some of that too, but we definitely can't get into that in this single video. It'd be like a 2-hour video that might get a little long. So yeah, I think we'll end it there.
Yeah, sounds good.
So yeah, if you like the history update we kind of did here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.